Hello, good afternoon, and welcome back. So, Tommy Robinson jailed for contempt of court. This did carry a maximum of 2 years, but he has not been convicted for the maximum, thankfully, even though for some reason he has still been convicted. So, this was 4 minutes ago from the BBC. Tommy Robinson has been jailed for 9 months over contempt of court. However, they did say that they would take into account the previous time and therefore would be spending 19 weeks in prison and could be released after half of that. But adding on to this charge and other things to consider is how they have intentionally misunderstood what he has said with regards to saying two Old Bailey judges said his Facebook live video of defendants in the trial had encouraged vigilante action. The reason being, and we can take this from the Metro a couple of days ago, which is where he was saying he had met with the Evolution Identity leader and saying that he'd been smeared a great deal, and they're a leader of the far-right group. So he was saying to the media, they're essentially saying, well, why are you going after this guy so much? Why don't you apply it equally? He said, you want to harass someone's family? You see that man who was getting aggressive as he walked into court, the man who faces charge of child abduction, rape, prostitution, harass him, find him, go knock on his door, follow him, see where he works, see what he's doing. You want to stick pictures online and call people and slander people? How about you do it to them? And saying, well, why are they not trying to approach these criminals or show where they live or show where they work or show what they're doing? Why? Showing that it wasn't to his followers, it was to the media who were already doing that to somebody else, but it was intentionally misunderstood to be that he was calling his followers to harass people. But of course, this did not go down quietly. And Ezra Levant from the Rebel Media has been reporting on this as well, as he had the fortune, or maybe misfortune, to be at the Old Bailey earlier today, and showed that they had increased their security. As we saw before, some of the videos where they had been pushing on these metal fences, they had then put some plastic zip ties on to stop them from being pulled apart as they had been done before, and as we can see, the police here are also in riot gear. They are expecting a much greater force of resistance due to the sentencing. Again, Tommy has been said that it is not for what he has done, but it is for who he is. He did also request emergency asylum from America, which it would have been great if Donald Trump had actually taken on and said, well, yes, according to the UN, if somebody's being prosecuted because they're a political prisoner in their own country, then they have the right to seek asylum and to gain it in a country where they would not be prosecuted for their political leanings. Tommy Robinson, of course, did lift the lid on the Rotherham grooming scandals, and the idea being that seeing as the Labour Party put so much into hush it up, that he's now an enemy of the state, at least for the Labour Party and anybody else who was involved in that. Of course, by sending him to prison, he was then able to say, well, hey, have you seen how these Muslim gangs recruit people and then encourage extremism and radicalise people because you have to join a gang in order to be protected? Of which the apparent refutation was saying, oh, this is only in high security prisons. Oh, as in where the more dangerous people are put, where there's actually a higher chance of them being able to radicalise somebody and they're more sincere and aggressive in their beliefs. Well, that doesn't look good then, does it? And Sargon McCurd from the Thinkery channel, I believe, has done a video on that as well. So they go on to give more details about the supposed crime itself, contempt of court, even though he's not really a criminal per se. He's just someone who's reported on the crimes. And as we know before, he was moved to a prison with a high Muslim population and then put into solitary confinement for his own safety for a couple of months, and during which he lost 40 pounds, according to Paul Joseph Watson from Summit News, because he lived on a tin of tuna a day because he couldn't trust what was being done with the food because there were Muslim cooks as well. And bear in mind, we're not just talking about like it's a Muslim population. No. These are actually criminals. We're not saying this is all Muslims. We're saying these are criminals who are already decided by the court that they can't be trusted in civilized society. And also, how much they hate to prosecute Muslims. They can guarantee that these people have actually done what they've been accused of. And therefore they are in prison for serious reasons. And this was during the summer, same again now, that Tommy Robinson was put opposite the mosque, or their prayer place, essentially. And so his window, which was facing that, He said he had to keep it closed, otherwise people would post things through, including human feces. So he had to be in the sweltering heat. So again, a tin of tuna a day, 2 months, lost 40 pounds, and it was swelteringly hot as well, as you can imagine. So again, they've decided, oh, let's continue it again this summer. Why not? So there is a possible appeal, and they have 28 days. Robinson's barrister, Richard Furlong, raised the possibility of an appeal against the court's decision and was told he has 28 days to apply. And it does say here, Dame Victoria Sharp told Robinson that the time he previously spent behind bars for contempt would be taken into account, reducing his sentence to 19 weeks, of which he would serve half before being released. The Attorney General said the sentencing illustrated how seriously the courts would take matters of contempt and urged everyone to think carefully about whether their social media posts could amount to contempt of court. There have been previous prosecutions of this, and I think that shows just how unknown it is, considering the idea being to prosecute to the fullest extent of the law in order to be a deterrent. Here we are. The then Lord Chief Justice Lord Thomas said people who use Facebook to mock the administration of justice and cause considerable concern to a victim's family must be deterred by the most severe sentences. However, from the studies I've seen, increasing the punishment for a crime doesn't act as a worthwhile deterrent, because often in the moment people aren't thinking about the consequences of their actions, and especially not if they get caught, because they don't think they will get caught. And if they don't think it's a crime in the first place, then obviously they're not going to be taking that into account. So at least in that regards, this trial does show, hey, contempt of court is a thing, and it is a big problem. So hopefully we can get rid of that law anyway. At least the way that it's been applied to Tommy Robinson here. So I don't think you can say that it was persuading anybody. But that's it for now. Tommy Robinson's going back into prison. So my question to you is, do you think he will survive it? The 19 weeks, or the half of it, the 9.5 weeks, the 2.5 months? Do you think he'll survive it? Do you think he was moved to a Muslim majority, or a high population Muslim prison, in order to put his life at risk? And then they thought, ooh, probably shouldn't let him die in prison, and therefore put him in solitary confinement for his own safety? Or do you think they just wanted to give him the hardest time possible that they could, while still seeing as if they were being fair and nice? Do you think they'll try and get him killed this time? Do you think he'll spend his time in prison to write a book and then create a political uprising, the likes of which we have seen before, especially if he calls it My Struggle? Do you think he'll be able to defend himself? And what do you think will happen if something terrible does befall Tommy while in prison? If he does get attacked and possibly killed, especially if the Brexit delays keep happening, how bad do you think the riots would get if we're told that then we're staying in the EU and Tommy Robinson has died? Because you can almost guarantee that the same people who like and support Tommy Robinson also want to leave the European Union. So if they get that double whammy, I can imagine they think, well, if you're not going to listen to me and then you're going to attack anybody who speaks out saying something that I like, then I have no voice left. And as has been said time and time again, if you take away someone's voice, then all that's left is violence. I'm not encouraging it, I'm not endorsing it. On the contrary, I'm trying to say, hey, anybody with power who's listening, actually listen to other people and let their voice be heard, because they might actually have a point. But anyway, what do you guys think? Let me know below. Have a wonderful day, if you can, and I will see you next time.